Gulang. Yumix.
How far does one go for the sake of honor and rituals? Well, if you're a Yautja, then the answer is going to be quite extreme, as proven by the new movie Predator Badlands. Here, the Predator protagonist Dek is deemed unworthy and not strong enough by his father, who's willing to sacrifice him for the sake of their clan. The importance of keeping the bloodline strong and competent is more than the love for his son, and this made us wonder how the Yautja culture really works in this regard. That's precisely what we'll explore in this video as we look into the origins of the cultural thought that made Dek's father so ruthless. The family that hunts together, kills together? The movie opens on Yautja Prime, the Predator homeworld, and we're immediately thrown into a combat trial between two brothers, Dek and Quay. Now, this isn't just some friendly sparring match, this is a ritual, a test to determine who's worthy of joining their father's clan on their first hunt. Quay is everything a Yautja warrior should be, tall, powerful, experienced. He's the golden child, the one who's already proven himself. Dek, on the other hand, he's smaller, he's scrappier, and in his father's eyes, he's fundamentally flawed. The movie makes it clear that Dek has some physical disadvantages, possibly even a vision impairment in one eye. In the brutal meritocracy of Yautja society, these are death sentences. During their combat trial, Quay predictably wins. He bests Dek, proving his dominance, but here's where things take a dark turn. Instead of accepting the outcome and letting Dek try again or find another path, their father, Najor, this imposing figure with white dreadlocks and antler-adorned mask, makes a horrifying demand. He orders Quay execute Dek right there on the spot. Najor doesn't see Dek as his son in that moment. He sees him as a weakness in the bloodline, a disgrace to the clan's legacy that needs to be eliminated. Now, here's where the story gets truly emotional. Quay is caught in an impossible position. On one hand, he is the obedient son, the warrior who's supposed to follow his father's orders without question. Yautja culture demands absolute respect for clan hierarchy, especially when it comes to leaders like Najor. On the other hand, we're talking about his little brother, the kid he grew up with, trained with, and probably protected his entire life. And in that crucial moment, Quay makes his choice. Instead of driving the blade through Dek's heart, he does something that goes against everything their father stands for. He frees Dek from his restraints and uses a grappling hook to send him back into his ship. While Najor is still processing this act of defiance, Quay frantically works his wrist computer, trying to activate the ship's controls to get Dek off-world. But Najor isn't about to let this betrayal slide. The clan leader attacks Quay with a savage fury. What follows is one of the most brutal scenes in the franchise. A father decimating his own son. Najor doesn't just defeat Quay, he brutalizes him, cutting off his arm in the process, and Dek is forced to watch the whole thing, powerless to intervene as his brother is torn apart. With his dying breath, Quay manages to finish activating the ship's controls. Even as he's bleeding out, with his arm severed and his father standing over him, Quay uses his last moments to ensure Dek escapes. The ship launches, taking Dek to Genna, the Death Planet, while Quay dies on Yautja Prime, having sacrificed everything for his brother's chance at survival. Understanding the Yautja Honor Code, where strength is everything. Alright, so now that we know what happened, let's talk about why. To understand Najor's decision to order Dek's execution, we need to understand Yautja culture. The Yautja are a society built entirely around the concept of the hunt. Everything in their culture revolves around proving your worth as a warrior. Your rank, your status, your right to exist. It all comes down to how well you hunt and kill. The Yautja follow what's called the Honor Code, also known as the Yautja Codex, which is basically their Bible of hunting rules and warrior conduct. This honor code is about proving you're the apex predator. Yautja society is often compared to Klingon culture from Star Trek, and for good reason. Both civilizations worship strength, view weakness as the ultimate shame, and believe that dying in combat is the greatest honor you can achieve. For the Yautja, your entire identity is tied to your hunting prowess. Youngbloods, that's what they call adolescent predators like Dek, have to go through brutal rites of passage to prove they're worthy of being considered adults. Typically, this involves hunting and killing a xenomorph from the Alien franchise. If you succeed, you get blooded. You mark yourself with the xenomorph's acidic blood and earn the right to hunt independently, carry trophies, and wear more advanced armor. You become a recognized warrior, but if you fail, well, you either die in the attempt or you live with the shame of being considered unworthy. The brutal truth, culling the weak. Yautja culture actively eliminates weakness. This is a society that practices what we might call culling, similar to how predators in nature separate weak prey from the herd. Najor, as a clan leader, represents the old guard of Yautja tradition. He's someone who's lived for possibly centuries, accumulated countless trophies, and built his entire identity around being the strongest and most skilled warrior. To him, having a son who's physically smaller is a direct threat to the clan's reputation and genetic legacy. In Yautja culture, there's this belief that allowing weakness to survive and potentially breed will weaken future generations. It's like they've taken natural selection and turned it into a religious doctrine. A weak Yautja is seen as a burden, a disgrace that brings shame to the entire bloodline. Multiple sources describe Najor as someone who felt deep contempt for everything he considered weak and believed that a weak Yautja could only honor his clan by dying. The only way Dek could bring honor to his family, in his father's eyes, was to die and remove his flawed genetics from the gene pool. This isn't unique to Najor either. Throughout Predator lore, we see this pattern again and again. Yautja who break the honor code or show weakness are either executed or exiled as bad bloods, outcasts who are hunted down by their own kind. The culture is so obsessed with perfection and dominance that there's literally no room for anyone who doesn't meet this standard. Victory and honor, the only currencies that matter. Every Yautja warrior is constantly trying to climb the social ladder through increasingly dangerous hunts. You start as unblooded, then become young blood after killing a xenomorph, then blooded once you've proven yourself further. From there, you can become an elite if you take down enough dangerous prey, then Elder if you survive long enough and accumulate legendary trophies. The highest ranks include Clan Leader, like Najor, and eventually Predator King, who rules over multiple clans. But here's the catch. Every single one of these promotions requires you to kill something incredibly dangerous. Want to become a clan leader? You need to survive clearing out an entire xenomorph hive containing over 300 aliens, along with 2 other elite predators. And you need at least 3 xenomorph queen skulls as proof. This system creates an environment where anything less than excellence is worthless. Dek, being small and having potential vision problems, means he starts at a massive disadvantage. By Najor's calculation, Dek will never be able to compete at the level required to bring honor to the clan. Worse, if Dek somehow survives and breeds, he could pass on his weak genetics to the next generation. In a culture where your physical prowess directly determines your entire life trajectory, this is unacceptable. The warrior philosophy, death before dishonor. Another crucial aspect of Yautja culture is their relationship with death. These aren't warriors who fear dying, they embrace it, as long as the death is honorable. The Yautja literally prefer to die in combat rather than live with the shame of defeat. This is why predators have that self-destruct device in their wrist gauntlets. When they're beaten, or when they know they're about to be captured or killed, they trigger a massive explosion that vaporizes them and everything around them. It's essentially ritual suicide, but in Yautja culture, it's seen as the ultimate act of honor. You're denying your enemy the trophy, destroying evidence of your technology, and dying on your own terms. From this perspective, Najor ordering Dek's execution could actually be seen as a twisted form of mercy within Yautja cultural logic. Rather than letting Dek live a life of shame, constantly reminded that he's inferior, Najor is giving him a quick death before the real suffering begins. Obviously, this is horrific by human standards, but within the framework of Yautja beliefs, it makes a dark kind of sense. The twisted logic of Yautja parenting. Here's something that really drives home how different Yautja culture is from human culture. What Najor did isn't even that unusual in their society. Ordering your weaker child's execution to preserve clan honor and genetic purity is apparently within the bounds of acceptable behavior for a Yautja clan leader. Yes, there's evidence that Yautja can form emotional bonds. Quay clearly loved his brother enough to die for him, but the culture actively suppresses these bonds when they conflict with the warrior code. Attachment to the weak is seen as a weakness itself. Yautja society is described as matriarchal in some sources, with females ruling the homeworld while males lead hunting clans off-planet, but even the females prioritize strength. They choose mates based on hunting prowess and trophy collections. The entire reproduction system is designed to reward the strongest warriors and phase out the weak. Najor probably sees himself as doing exactly what any good Yautja father should do, eliminating a genetic liability and testing his stronger son's loyalty in the process. The fact that Quay refused the order would be seen as a catastrophic failure in parenting from Najor's perspective. He not only has a weak son, but now his strong son has revealed a dangerous sentimentality that compromises his effectiveness as a warrior. The price of compassion in a brutal culture. What makes Kwei's sacrifice even more tragic is that he's punished for showing the very qualities we would consider heroic. Compassion, loyalty to family, refusing to murder an unarmed person, these are virtues in human society. But in Yautja culture, they're dangerous weaknesses. By refusing to kill Dek, Kwei violated the sacred principle of clan hierarchy. He disobeyed a direct order from his clan leader, who also happened to be his father. In doing so, he essentially declared that his personal feelings were more important than the clan's traditions and his father's authority. That's an unforgivable transgression. Najor's brutal response to Kwei's defiance sends a clear message. No one, not even a favored son, is above the clan's needs. Sentiment has no place in Yautja decision-making. The fact that Najor could so easily switch from viewing Kwei as his heir to butchering him shows how deeply these values are embedded. When Kwei chose mercy over obedience, he became just as much of a problem as Dek. This is the fundamental conflict at the heart of Predator Badlands. Dek's journey throughout the film is about learning that the old ways, the brutal, strength-obsessed traditions his father embodies, aren't the only way to be a warrior. Through his friendship with Thea, the synthetic, and Bud, the baby Kalisk, Dek discovers that protection and loyalty can be greater strengths than ruthless domination. The cycle of violence and Najor's downfall. Dek's story comes full circle. He returns to Yautja Prime, confronts his father, and finally gets justice for Kwei's murder. The movie makes it clear that Dek has evolved beyond the toxic values his father represents. When Dek kills Najor, it's about breaking the cycle of violence and honor obsession that led to Kwei's death in the first place. Dek literally tells his father that he's already found his clan, referring to Thea and Bud, his found family based on mutual protection rather than dominance. Najor's final words are telling. Even when defeated, even when Dek has proven himself by surviving the Death Planet and returning with a trophy, the old warrior can't accept his son's worth. He mocks Dek for not killing Kalisk specifically, showing that no achievement would ever be enough. Some sources suggest Najor even tells Dek that maybe the right son survived after all just before dying, which is simultaneously a compliment and an insult, acknowledging Dek's strength while implying Kwei was weak for being compassionate. The movie's message is pretty clear. The old Yautja way, the Najor way, is fundamentally broken. A culture that requires you to kill your own children to maintain genetic purity and honor isn't honorable at all. It's just cruel. True strength comes from protecting others, not from culling the weak. What this tells us about Predator lore going forward. Predator Badlands does something really interesting with the franchise. For the first time, we're getting a Predator as the protagonist, which means we have to actually examine their culture and find it wanting. Previous films showed Predators as mysterious, honorable hunters with a strict code, but when you actually look at what that code demands, killing unarmed children if they're weak, executing clan members who show mercy, living in constant competition where compassion is weakness, it's absolutely horrifying. The movie seems to be setting up a conflict between traditional Yautja values and a new way forward. The ending, where Dek's mother arrives in a massive ship, suggests this conflict is far from over. Will she be proud of Dek for breaking free of toxic traditions, or will she be even worse than Najor? Only time will tell. But one thing's for certain, the Yautja culture's obsession with strength at all costs, their willingness to sacrifice even their own children to maintain honor, and their belief that the weak deserve death, these aren't presented as admirable traits anymore. They're presented as a cautionary tale about what happens when a warrior culture takes things too far. Marvelous verdict! A journey inside Predator culture. So there you have it. The full story of why Dek's father wanted him dead and how Kwei sacrificed everything to save him, and what this reveals about the brutal honor code of the Yautja. It's a story about the most toxic masculinity on a galactic scale, about the difference between strength and cruelty, and about finding your own path when your own culture demands you become a monster. Najor represents everything wrong with the old ways. The belief that might makes right, that weakness deserves death, and that honor is more important than love. Kwei represents the best of what the Yautja could be, strong enough to win battles, but also brave enough to show mercy. And Dek represents the future, a new kind of predator who understands that protecting the weak isn't weakness at all. What did you think of Predator Badlands? Does Najor's cultural background justify his actions, or is he just a straight-up villain? And what do you think Dek's mother will do when she arrives? Let us know in the comments down below.